Welcome. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Baseball Talk radio show. It's the Halloween edition.
Oh,
and that voice you hear joining me is Mr. Rich Baxter. Rich, great to be with you again this week on Halloween.
great to be with you as well, Gary. Nice to see you on a Halloween. And wow, we got a World Series that I'm going to admit, I went to bed the first couple games and last night. I even went to bed. I couldn't last. I couldn't stay up anymore. You hit it. You hit the nail on the head right away when you said that you wish they would start at 7 o'clock, 7:30, right around there. Get done around 10:30. That would be perfect. But no, they just can't do it. And you're working all day. You come home, you're tired. You can't stay up past 11:30 to watch these games.
And plus, they're losing the youth that they want to expand to, and get interested in the game. And it's really a shame because the games have been really good. I mean, except for I think game 1 and 2 was a little lopsided to both teams, but it's been a decent enough series with it's been fairly close games. Yesterday's game, last night's game, I should say, was the Astros held a 2-1 lead. Looked like they were going to tie it up, and then bam, in the seventh inning, Atlanta hits 2 home runs in a row, back to back, Rich, and then shuts down that Houston offense. And they all of a sudden they've got a 3-game-to-1 lead in this thing. And I tell you, I'm shocked. I thought the Astros would give a better performance. I actually thought Houston would probably win this, but Atlanta's just shocking everybody, and it's too bad more people don't see it.
Yeah. I went to bed last night. As you said, Houston seemed to have them in hand. Didn't seem like it was going to change too much. And I was kind of shocked when I woke up in the morning and found out that the Braves came back, hit 2 home runs, as you said, and turned this tide. It's kind of going to take a miracle for the Astros to come back and win this thing. What, they have to run the table now, correct?
Well, yeah, and they've got to win one in Atlanta tonight, which is Atlanta can sew it up and sew it up at home. So yeah, Houston's got to run the table. They've got to win one in Atlanta and two in Houston, and it can be done. We've seen it done in the past, but it's no easy task. And we've seen Atlanta all year. And if you remember back to the beginning of the season, if we were to say Atlanta was going to go to the fifth game of the World Series with a 3-game-to-1 lead, I think we would have laughed at somebody because they were in the bottom of the division in the beginning of the season, and it looked like our teams were going to battle it out. And what a turnaround, Rich.
Yeah, they made a miraculous turnaround. They stayed around the top of the heap and, battled through this. So if this is any indication of a team that's, got a lot of strength at times, and it takes a little luck at times as well, those home runs last night. What can you say? The Astros had a great chance in last night's game. They were 0 for 8 with runners and scoring position. And that's how they lost that game. They had plenty of people on base, but they just couldn't advance them for some reason last night.
Yeah, and that's the big key. And look, Atlanta, their pitching has come through when they had to. Uh, they've gotten the job done, both starting and relieving, and um, what can you say? They've gotten the timely hits. They've done everything right so far, and I feel a little bit bad for Dusty Baker because that what's going to happen is if Houston doesn't win this, and they still can, they can still come back and win this. Uh, but everybody will say Dusty can't win the big one, and you can't get. It's like the Bills in the '90s, the Buffalo Bills that went to four Super Bowl games, and well, it's Marv Levy couldn't win the big game. He got the four Super Bowls. He won four big games there somewhere to get to the Super Bowl. I mean, that's a load of crap. I think it's just there's a lot of unfortunate things that happen, as you said. Luck is one of them. Um, it's a crapshoot anyway once you get into the playoffs. So I don't buy any of that stuff. But uh, I'm amazed, and Atlanta doing it without their best player, Ronald Acuna Jr. I mean, these guys that they trade, their front office deserves to get a medal or whatever for the job that they did, bringing in outfielders who have you know dominated, you might say, between Rosario and the playoffs, and he makes a brilliant catch defensively. Soler hits the home run in a pinch hitting role last night. Jock Peterson's had some big hits for them. Adam Duvall has done the same. Uh, their front office deserve all the kudos in the world for what they've done.
Yeah, that's for sure. And how about the broadcasting of the game? Have you been listening to? Seems like Joe Buck is rooting for the Astros in a big way. Do you hear that same sentiment coming from him?
Well, I have to be honest with you. When I watch, I usually watch with no sound on. I'm not a fan of those guys, so I'll have the game. The wife is usually watching something on the TV. I'll either be watching it on the phone or on the computer, so I really don't have the sound on. I'm just watching the game. It's like I went to the ballpark.
Yeah.
And so I I really can't comment. I'm not a big Joe Buck fan, but look, somebody likes him at Fox. I don't know whether he's got pictures of somebody in a compromising position, but he's the top baseball guy. He's the top football guy. He even did the. Remember when Fox had that disastrous U.S. Open one year, the golf U.S. Open, and he was the lead announcer on that. And look, it wasn't all their fault. It was a terrible. The USGA, as they tend to do normally, did a lousy job. They picked a lousy course for the Open. They had a lousy setup, and it was not all Fox's fault. They had to deal with what they were dealt, but he was on top of that as well. So you know, I don't know. I Somebody likes him, and I don't think he could. I notice he doesn't call fast sports like he doesn't call hockey, and he doesn't call basketball. I don't recall. So um, I'm sure if Fox got those contracts, they would give him a shot. But I admire those guys that go from hockey to baseball. Um, that's a tough thing to do. I interviewed a guy one time. His name was John Leahy, and he was for years he was the announcer of the Lowell Spinners, who were in the New York Penn League, and I got to know him a little bit, and I interviewed him a couple of times, and I asked him because in the off season he does college hockey, he announces, and I said, which now I'll ask you, which do you think is easier to do? Baseball or a hockey game? What would you think?
I would say baseball.
That's what I would say. Because she figures it's slow, you got time to look. He says it's much harder to do baseball than hockey. And his reasoning was this. And look, the guy's a pro, so he knows. um, Hockey, you're constantly going. There's not a lot of
Right.
space to fill up. But baseball, you got to fill in a lot of stuff and you got to know the spots. So if you're doing a game by yourself, he always felt baseball was harder to do than hockey. And I was intrigued by that. But when you think about it, I guess he's right because hockey you constantly going. It's a fast sport, and for him it was harder to do. And I've heard other people. I've heard who else did I hear? Was it Howie Rose? I don't want to give him uh, if he didn't say it, but I heard another guy say the same thing, and for virtually the same reason, because you have a lot more dead time that you have to fill with baseball, whereas with hockey, there's very little dead time. You're constantly talking, and then your banter with your color guy. We the down plays are less, and everything else is scripted. The in between periods or something. If you do a recap, that's all already scripted. So, yeah, I thought that was interesting. But as I said, I watch without sound, so I'm not going to judge Joe Buck. I'm not a fan.
And the ratings, putting that up on the screen if you're watching us on the YouTube channel here, they're saying Shark Tank was steady against the World Series on, I guess, Friday night, game 3. The broadcast for the World Series averaged 9.4 total viewers, 9.4 million, of course, with a 1.9 demo rating, whatever that is, landing right between the preliminary numbers for the Braves and Astros' first 2 postseason matchups. So getting about 9.4 million viewers, not anything to write home about on this World Series. And a lot of people kind of speculated that with 2 smaller market teams, Houston and Atlanta, only the true like baseball fan, or if you're from that area, you're going to tune into the game. But so far, no earth shattering ratings from this year's World Series to report.
Are they? I haven't seen an article. How does it compare to last year's?
It's
Or
up a little bit from last year, from what I've been reading with the COVID, series that we had last year, but
Mhm.
not anything out of control. Like very close to it. So, and a lot of people were talking about that before the series started. You have 2 teams that aren't on the coast, so to speak,
right?
Atlanta and, of course, MLB losing $1 billion in revenue in 2020 with the pandemic. The return to the 162 game season helped the league, but the ratings are not up here. It says game 1 of the World Series drew 10.81 million viewers, and that's about what they get on an average World Series. But I'm sure they were looking for a lot more.
Yeah. Well, you know, uh, if the numbers are up slightly, that's a good thing. I mean, as long as it goes up, they'd rather see that than anything else. So, I'm sure that they'll be happy about that. I think a lot of people tuned in, especially game 1, because they wanted to see, I guess, maybe Manfred squirm a little bit, being that it's in Georgia and they took the All-Star game away, which was still, I think, still a big mistake. Um, so
Yeah,
you know, but Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's up 20% from last year. Game one was anyway, up 20% in the ratings. And, that's a win for them, but it's still not like the Super Bowl. And I can't understand why baseball doesn't hype this up a little bit more. And I'm not sure how they could do that. Maybe some entertainment surrounding the game, this, that, or the other. But it just doesn't seem like baseball goes to the degree of the NFL with attracting viewers, like come up with something, come up with an idea, have um a break in the middle of the game or something. I don't know, but
I
it's always bothered me.
It's tough because I think we discussed this before, but it's tough because it's a series. The the Super Bowl is one day, so at the end of that day, it you know it's over.
Yeah.
You're gonna pick a winner. You don't know that in baseball. Like we can't have like a game five party. I mean, you can, but to celebrate Atlanta winning because you don't know if they're gonna win tonight.
Yeah.
The only way they could do it is to make that they have to play all seven games. And even if but if you win it in five, what's the sense of playing six and seven anyway? And
Yeah.
then you can't start on a Tuesday night. You can't have game seven if that's the penultimate game on a Tuesday night because
It's
games
Tuesday.
really, yeah, games three, four, and five are the ones that you would party at if you were going to have a party.
Right.
So I don't know what they could do. I think that's why they try to make the All Star game their diamond, their big thing.
The showcase.
And
Yeah.
yeah, their showcase. That's when they bring in all the sponsors. They have the entertainment like they do at the Super Bowl. They have they spread it out. It used to be just a game, let's face it, when we were kids. Now it's a whole week. They have the home run derby or it's a few days at least. That's what I think that they do now. They're trying to make that as close to the Super Bowl. But when you have, hockey's got the same issue because it's a series. Basketball's got the same issue because it's a series. Uh, really, football is the only sport that can do that. They have their championship game, and they can't even do it with college football because that's so confusing. Nobody knows what the heck is going on there. And I think football's got the perfect situation. They can have a day, they can have a game. Um, tennis can do it too. I mean, golf can do it when they have their majors, but there's all the other things in between that lead up to it that football has the playoffs, but it's limited and it ends at the Super Bowl. And everybody knows that. And none of the other sports can match that unless they went, unless you had a playoff and then you had a one game for the championship. And I don't think we'd want to see that. That would kill the whole tradition of the World Series. I think it's big in the cities that are holding it, but other than that, I don't think it's. Um, I don't know. It's just I don't see how they can solve the problem.
Yeah, would be tough indeed. And it looks like the Braves may be starting a 27-year-old lefty who made his major league debut on the final weekend of the regular season. I'm looking at an article here, although it's not officially listed at MLB.com yet. And we're still, about 8 hours away from the game here as we're doing the podcast. But going to be interesting to see who starts the game for the Atlanta Braves tonight.
Yeah, I don't. If he does start, I don't think it's. I think it's one of those deals. they've been pulling them quick.
Yeah, with the injury to Charlie Morton, sort
Yeah.
of push the Braves back a little bit, and it'll be interesting to see who actually pitches tonight for the Braves. And what an awesome time it could be for a pitcher that starts this game, because they could actually win the World Series. But another thing I've been noticing about the World Series games is starting pitchers aren't lasting past the fourth inning most of the time, good or
Yeah.
bad, when they go out there and start. It's kind of a strange thing.
And Rich, that seems to be a trend the last few years. You don't see much of the starting pitches unless, of course, it's really a big name like a Kershaw or something like that. But the secondary pitches, as you say, they get them in, they start getting into trouble, or they get them out. It's almost like they want to keep fresh arms coming in to throw off the other team. I don't know how else to describe it, but you're right. It's you don't see a lot of it.
Yeah, and a side note here, one of our baseball podcast buddies at Baseball PhD uh, made the trip to the World Series. So it'll be interesting to see how those guys, I think a couple of them did, from Baseball PhD podcast. If you're familiar with it, if not, go over to the baseballtalkradio.com website and you can find them there. Great bunch of guys there to do that show. And I believe Ed Casputis and one of the other guys from that show made the trip to Atlanta, along with one of the guys from Twitter who tweets about the Miami Marlins. So it'd be interesting to hear what they have to say about their experiences to the World Series trip.
It's pretty, I don't know if you've ever been to a World Series game. I've been to two. It's pretty exciting. It was not a trip, and it was a number of years ago. So now the whole thing with the merch and everything else is blown, uh out of proportion, I guess. But it was fun, and I have to say, my age now, I'm glad I did it when I was younger. Uh, it was 30 some odd years ago, 1986, the World Series, the Mets, of course. I was at game one and I was at game seven, which is, let me tell you, that is a wild spectacle. You were talking about the spectacle of the Super Bowl, but if you're at game seven in your home field when your team wins, that is absolutely bonkers. I guess whenever your team wins, it's a great feeling in the World Series. Of course, doesn't have to be just Game 7, but in that series, it happened to be Game 7, and I was fortunate enough to have tickets for that. Um, Even though I was sitting so high, the players were like about that big. The old Shea Stadium there, it was pretty high up there, and it was steep getting up those stairs, but it was fun to be there, and um, at least that's off my bucket list. I've never been to an All-Star game, but I've been to World Series. I've been to playoff games, baseball. I've been to playoff games in football. Never been to a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Uh, but I'd like to go to a hockey Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, that would probably be wild.
Yeah,
A lot of
they're wild.
electricity.
Yeah, yeah. Hockey's would we're getting off the subject here, but hockey's a great sport to watch, but it's really more fun live than on television.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about it. It is I can watch it on television, but it's more fun live. It's just I guess you hear the banging more of the boards when they crash in and the
Yeah.
puck hits it.
It's a fast game. You see it on TV and you don't appreciate the speed of
The
the game
speed. Yeah.
till you're there. Like the third period, it's almost like people take on a super persona out
Yeah,
there on the ice. It's like, wow, you saved it up for the third period.
yeah. You're 100% right. It's much faster in person appearing than it does on TV, and I don't know why that is. It's the same speed, but I don't know what it is, but it does seem much much faster in person. But I can remember as a kid going, my father, going to the old garden before this garden even. I don't know, it was like 50 cents to get. I can remember this one time, Montreal Canadiens, you can never get a ticket for them. And I wanted to see the Canadians so bad because they were the Canadian, that's when they were winning everything. And we went, and I don't know what I was 7, 8 years old or something. And we got the standing room only tickets. And my poor father, I don't think he saw anything in the game. I was on his shoulders the whole game. I got to see the game. I don't think he saw anything at all. Uh, but I got to see the Canadians, Les Canadians, or however they say it, and Les Habitats uh,
Right.
in their scarlet jerseys, because then they used to wear the colored jerseys on the road. I'm
Yeah.
talking about the 1960s. So
Right.
anyway,
Yeah. We digressed a little bit, but
we're really getting off the track.
that other gentleman that went to go see the World Series tweets at a handle called Baseball and the Law on Twitter. His name's Lewis Schiff, and he also attended a game at the World Series. And it'll be interesting to listen to their comments and see how they enjoyed the World Series experience there in Atlanta. I'm sure it was a great time.
Yeah, and Rich, it's odd because I thought they had an unwritten rule that the people didn't get hired or fired during the World Series, and yet two managers have been hired uh, during this series, or maybe it was just before, but um, the Cardinals have fulfilled their managerial spot with Oliver Marmol. He is the 51st manager in Cardinals history and the youngest manager in the majors at 35 years. Excuse me. 35 years old, Rich.
So they're going to take a chance on youth there, and we've seen other teams do that. Your Mets, my Phillies, they didn't kind of work out too well for them,
Yep.
but who knows? You might hit pay dirt with it. And as you said, yeah, they didn't usually try to detract from the World Series and the playoffs and things like that. They generally save that for after the season, but I guess they rushed it in and wanted to get that manager announced. And so congratulations to him and good luck. I was surprised to see St. Louis let their manager go. I thought he was doing pretty good, wasn't he?
Yeah, they won. They won. I think they went the 3 years he was there. They went to the playoffs all 3 years. They didn't get far, but they still got there. I mean, they won a division title or two with him. They won the wild card, got the wild card spot this year. So they've been in the playoffs. I was shocked, but they said it was philosophical differences is why he was let go.
Yeah, and of
Come
course,
on.
the Cardinals went on that insane winning streak of what was a 17 game winning streak towards the end of the season.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
just it was mind boggling when I heard that. I thought I was hearing things.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Because you figured they go on this streak, they come out of nowhere, make the playoffs. Okay, they lose the wild card game. And then the guy gets fired. It's like unbelievable. Uh, but as I said, they said philosophical differences. Maybe he got tired of them telling him what to do or something, or they wanted more control over the team, and he didn't want to. You know, uh, the game is changing now with general managers send down the lineups and stuff. That's bull. The man. That's why you hire a manager. What is he there for then? To read a computer, print that? You can have some nerd do that. Have some computer geek sit there and just say, okay, you go in there. No, 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 no. You got to have somebody in there that can make on the fly decisions and keep his head in the game and go against the grain every now and then. But I don't know. They never say what it was, just philosophical differences. So we shall see. But you know, uh, they have a manager, and the Padres now they have a new manager, Bob Melvin, who was with Oakland, but Oakland allowed him to interview for this job. And no word whether there's going to be a trade. I think they had an option on him, and they picked it up, the A's, but they let him interview for the Padres job. So interesting situation there. I wonder if they'll get some kind of compensation at all. And the reports in out of San Diego is that Jace Tindler, the former manager, lost control of the clubhouse, and that's when he got let go. But Bob Melvin gonna move into San Diego. Oliver Marmol in St. Louis. And the Mets still can't hire anybody because nobody wants the job here, or no team will give permission to interview their up and coming executives. So the Mets are still looking for a president of baseball operations, um, and a manager, and to be honest, they're looking for a coaching staff too. So I don't know when they're going to get this done. The CBA is up on December 1st. We may not have baseball this year coming up, or they'll settle it. We'll see. But Mets are ill prepared to go into the winter meetings so far, and those will usually occur in December sometime. So it's just a mess. Now the talk is that they're gonna change their instead of hiring a base president of baseball operations, they may look just to hire a general manager type. And so I don't know. You know,
Interesting. But yeah, I don't think it behooves the MLB or the players to have a ruffle at this next contract here that they're going to sign. The baseball fans are somewhat back in the fold. Don't want to scare them away at this point. I think if they have that CBA that goes awry and things get locked out and you got a strike, and you're going to lose a lot of fans again, because these guys are getting paid pretty good money to play baseball. I don't see where the contract things would go awry with this. But like anything else, people are greedy. They want to add. But I don't know, at the expense of the fan, maybe.
yeah. And the players have to realize that whether they like the owners, yes, the owners are making money, but they lost a ton of money last year. There's no two ways about it. I don't care how you want to add it up. They lost a ton of money. So coming off a pandemic, which was still in to a certain extent, the players have got to have a little common sense and say, look, we got guys making millions of dollars here. They're making big money. Why do we want to push this? They have to make more concessions, and I can understand. Right, the owners don't, want to make guys 29. This system isn't working for anybody. I don't think right now. So the owners, what they want to make free agency at 29 and a half years of age. I don't know if I go along with that either. I mean, that's, if you bring up a prospect at 19, like a Bryce Harper, yeah, that means he's going to be 10 years with a team before he's eligible for free agency. I'm not sure that's right. I would rather see a team get a guy at 25 who does his 5 years or 6 years, whatever it is, and go to another team and have get that big paycheck you know what I'm trying to say?
Sure.
Uh, and get that big paycheck early. They're trying to cut that out, I guess. Look, I make it 27 and a half or something, make it something like that. If you want to get rid of service time, and at least then he's young enough to go somewhere and sign an 8-year deal or something. And the team gets a good player too. Don't forget we get these guys in their 32 and you sign them to an 8-year contract, and at the end of it, you're not getting nothing out of them. They're 40 years old, or like a pool holes and stuff, 42. And the last couple of years he hasn't been the pool holes of old. And yet they had that 10-year contract, the Angels.
Yeah,
I
going
don't know
back
what the
to some brief history of labor stoppages. There was one in 72, 73, an owner lockout, spring training over salary arbitration. And most
Mhm.
recently, the last one was around 1994, apparently, players striking largely over owners' desire to implement a salary cap. And, some 25, 30 years later, you still have people arguing about salaries, and salaries are up. I mean, how much more money do you need to play baseball? I question that. Like
Well,
the average pitcher is making $8 million a year now. That's a lot of money. Come back to earth, come back to working for a living and putting food on the table every week. I realize you're
but
playing
it's
baseball and it's a big stage, but come on, let's be realistic.
but that's the market. The market, are cars worth $40,000? Uh, you know, if you had to build a car from scratch, what would it cost you to buy all the individual parts? Would it be $40,000? May not be. You
Yeah,
know,
but I'm talking millions. I'm talking, you're
no,
getting
I
millions.
understand that, but
And the average fan is going to weigh in on that. They're not going to side in with a guy that's an average player and he's pulling down a few $1 million a year. That's a lot of money to be making as a player. And as you said, the owners are it's like a car company. You want to use cars as an example. Look at Ford. They take in billions of dollars. Do they give it all back to the employees? No, they would be making $1 million a year. So I don't know. I just think at a certain point, people get a little bit greedy and they don't see things for the way they are. The ownership is a company, it's a corporation. They're taking a gamble. A lot of these companies aren't making a whole lot of money in the Midwest. How does Minnesota keep going every year? Like how does these teams that you don't hear about in the playoffs keep going in the years? You have your LA Dodgers that make billions of dollars off of TV, the Yankees, and I'm so glad they're both not in the World Series this year because that sort of um, gives the aspect that it's not always money that's going to buy you into the World Series, the biggest stage game in the world for baseball, and that's great. It just tells you something about baseball. It's still a human game, and it's but it'll be interesting to see about the CBA.
yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see, and I think both sides have not stick to their guns. The owners get the bad rap all the time, and sometimes they deserve it, sometimes they don't. Um, Same thing with the players union; they get a bad rap, and sometimes they deserve it. Sometimes they don't. But I think in this particular time, as you say, everybody's making a good living. Um, and let's face it, it's the owner's fault, really, for that. I
Yeah,
mean, they're the
they
ones that created the market with the high salaries and everything. So
yeah,
it's their own fault. Now they're trying to change it, or previous generation of owners, like a Steinbrenner who's gone now. Um, but but I think the players union has to be also considerate to the fact that they did lose a lot of money last year, the owners, and I don't care whether you hate them or not, they did with not allowing anybody in, and the TV numbers weren't there either, so they didn't make as much from that. And who knows about the merchandise and all of that, but um, I think MLB is the greedy one now, though, with this want to open up the game to China and all of that kind of stuff. I'm totally against that. I think they're making a big mistake. We're already losing jobs there, and they're going to cause more jobs to go there. And I think that's ridiculous. To everybody's got a kowtow. Look what basketball's doing to kowtow to China. It's ridiculous, but that's another story for another day. But the CBA is going to be interesting, Rich.
yes, it will be, and we'll keep an eye on it and bring you our opinions of what's going on. One more quick note before I go to like some stats of the podcast. Somebody brought up on Twitter the other day about the annoying MLB and generally in sports betting. This FanDuel, everything else, Caesars app, MGM, all these different betting things.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
wondering if not they're oversaturating the sports market right now and exposing people too much to sports ads on gambling. And I was for it. I mean, I'm still for it, but I don't like to be barraged with, bet $1,000 tonight and get it back if you lose type of situation. And that's what you seem like
Yeah.
you're watching these sports like hockey, baseball, basketball, whatever sport you're watching, even football, they're bombarding you with these ads. And I think it should slow down a little.
Yeah, as you said, they got what, Caesars now and DraftKings and uh I don't know. There's so many of them out there, and the ironic thing about it is that Pete Rose still isn't in the Hall of Fame. And what did he not get in for gambling? And yet they're advocating it now and have partnerships. These leagues have partnerships in some of these organizations. I think the MLB might be with DraftKings. I think the NBA was involved in the other big one whose name escapes me. Um, and they tell the players you shouldn't bet, and then they're running these ads all the time under the premise of what, fantasy leagues. I mean, I don't understand that. I don't understand it at all. But it's all about the money now, and you hit it right in the head there with the it's all about the dough, and that's it.
Yeah, and it's not so much fantasy anymore. It's, bet hard-earned money uh on the outcome of the game, win or lose. But it comes to a point where it was fun in the beginning. Oh, you can bet on sports and all, but now it's sort of like you watch a game and you're barraged with it. So you sort of get the feeling that it might not be that great, especially when younger people are losing their money. I think
Yeah.
it's easy. Um, it's just against what they were going for so many years.
Yeah, yeah. I love at the end, at the commercials. They have, if you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800. no gamble or something. And I know they have to do that by law, but it just sounds so ridiculous that they're advertising gambling. At the end, they're saying, but if you have a gambling problem, please call our hotline.
Yeah, and that hotline, what are they going to do for you? That's the funny part about it.
Yeah, nothing.
All right, let's look a little bit at our stats here. Top new episodes. Our listeners, of course, 87% from the US. Apple Podcasts, still the big podcast aggregator for us, 69%. Amazon Alexa's up to 6. Google Podcasts, 3. And Overcast is now 3. We have a nice mix of listeners, 82% with the guys, 18% with the ladies. Thank you very much. And a nice representation across the age dial here for podcast listeners. And it looks like, seems like the older you are, the more podcasts you listen to. I might be wrong, but it looks like that.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It's an interesting stat.
But we thank you for listening, and go over to anchor.fm/baseball talk radio show. You can sponsor the show right there just for a latte a month. And the lattes are up to about $5 these days. So if you'd like to sponsor our show, what we do here, please stop by and hit support and sign up for it. It's professionally managed, and we'd appreciate it.
Yeah, and if you'd like to support the show some more, you can go to anchor.fm, as Rich said, Baseball Talk Radio Show, or go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/baseball talk. And don't forget, there's a Facebook page as well, and that's facebook.com/baseball talk radio show. So, Rich, we could be done with the baseball season tonight, or it could go on a couple more days, but our next show will definitely have a winner.
Yes, we will. We'll be talking about that winner. And if it's the Braves, so be it. And as you said, they can win it all tonight on Halloween night here out in Atlanta. That would be nice for them to bring it home for the home fans. But it's going to be tough. The Astros are going to be digging in. And we really don't have a starting pitcher for the Braves to talk about yet. So it's going to be interesting for sure.
Certainly will. And Rich, I'll see you next time.
Thanks, Gary. Talk to you then.